Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt, and we do the beer stuff here. A little bit of Massive Beer Review classics, a little bit of revisiting beers that I've reviewed in the past. Just good beer in general. We got the trifecta going on here. Samichlaus. It's been a hot minute since I've done Samichlaus Classic. I reviewed the wine barrel aged version not too long ago. I was absolutely blown away. This is a fun one because I reviewed this beer 5 years ago. And this beer is from 2016. We're doing Samichlaus Classic 2016. You could probably see it right there, I would assume. Or maybe there. Somewhere along those lines. You'll be able to see it. Yeah, Samichlaus, one of my favorite beers of all time. More specifically, one of my favorite ageable beers of all time. But, pickings are slim nowadays. Picking beers like this off a shelf. It was a really good hiss too. I'm very, very excited. But lo and behold, I decided to go, well, not me, we decided, my wife and I decided to go on our first overnight trip without Micah. We've kind of gone out without him and stuff like that, but he's 4.5. He can communicate and tell everybody what he wants all the time. And my sister, insert deity of choice here, bless her. She's so good with my kids. She's so awesome. She's like, I want to do an overnight with Micah. We wanted to do an overnight for ourselves. So we went to a small little town in Pennsylvania, spent the night, ate food, had fun, all that kind of fun stuff. And when we were walking back from our reservation or eating dinner, there was this like little bottle shop. And I was like, man, I have some feeling about this place. I gotta pop in. And I popped in. And they had a bonkers selection of vintage old stuff. That's where this comes from. I am going back to that place to clean it out. Not clean it out, but get a bunch of stuff. It's funny because, long-winded review already. And this beer is looking fantastic. Beautiful carbonation. Give it a swirl. It comes right back. It has that murkiness that, like, non-aged Samichlaus does not have. So we're off to a very good start. But it's funny. I was blown away. Like, I was like, what is all this stuff doing here? I'm like, I have no idea. It's more of a wine store, but obviously they have somebody to send the beer there. And I'm like looking at it, and I'm like scanning all these beers, and I actually get, not to this beer, but a different beer, which I'll post a review of, Black Albert from Struce. So I was like, I made an audible squeal. I was like, why is all this stuff here at this random place? And I went to check out. I got a sixer of mixed stuff, and I was like, I had to say, the two gentlemen working at the counter are older. I want to say probably in their 60s, if not 70s. And I said, hey guys, just want to let you know, awesome beer selection. I'm blown away. And they're like, and they started chatting them up. And it was obviously an overnight date weekend with my wife. And they're like, oh man, you want to go down the cellar? We got even crazier stuff down there. And I was like, I have to come back. I'm like, I'm hanging out with my wife. This is not a beer thing for me. So I'm going back there. Anyway, so this is the first review I'm doing of the beers I found there. So, you're talking about 2016 Samichlaus. Essentially, this beer is 10 years old at this point. And it was pretty cool because I'm like, I know I reviewed the 2016 before. Lo and behold, I'm interviewing beer. It kind of makes sense. I reviewed a 2016 Samichlaus about 5 years ago, given me by my boy Jeff, a.k.a. Flash Gordon. He sent it off, and I liked it, but I said, I kind of need a little bit more time on it. Samichlaus, for me, needs long-haul aging. You get to revisit this. Get to go back and see what's what. So, anyway, we'll cut the story short and just dive into the beer and just say, first off, one of my favorite labels of all time. I mean, look, it's Samichlaus. You know what I mean? It's just a beautiful label, one of those beautiful beers. Used to be, they probably call down in here, one of the strongest beers in the world. Story time in the back. Brewed once a year, December 6th. So we're a few months short of being 10 years in this sucker. It's stored 10 years in the bottle. I think they nixed... This is Schloss Eggenberg, by the way. This is the name of the brewery that produces this. And it was a Shelton Brothers, right? No. Wetter Importers, Sterling, Virginia. Yeah. World's most extraordinary beverage. I think you used to say world's most, strongest beverage, but anyway. But look at that sucker. You cannot really see through that. You can glean some light through it. Much, much darker than you typically get from even a younger vintage of this. Like if this was like 3-4 years old, it would be much, much clearer than that. So it has that nice kind of turbidity. Haze existed before IPA. And every time I give that a whirl, that head comes back. So this thing has aged quite gracefully. Let's dive in this sucker. Rich caramels, colors. I always attribute kind of plumminess to this, wininess to this. Let's get a nose. Oh, man. That smells so good, man. It just has morphed into this. It hasn't got full on sugar daddy, but it has this, like, if you made sugar daddy with like plum sauce, like a plum sauce sugar daddy, that's kind of what you have going on here. So these rich kind of red fruity but leaning into plummy kind of vibes with this kind of sugar daddy kind of aged barley wine. That's what this is. They call it a Doppelbock, but it's 13.4 or 14%. It's barley wine for all intents and purposes, and it just has this sweet, rich barley wine kind of vibe to it, but it has that Samichlaus twist, and then it has that little plummy candiness going on, but it has morphed again with that little bit of sugar daddy vibes, not necessarily that raisinetty vibe that I love so much with a lot of these aged barley wines. That's where this one kind of skews a little bit different than the other ones. It just has this richness and this plumminess and this sugar daddiness that I don't really get from a lot of other beers, more specifically that plumminess. And it has this absolutely fantastic nose on it. I'm not getting any precursor to any kind of wet papery kind of oxidative thing come more in the taste, but the way this thing hissed, the way this thing kind of popped off. Re-review classics, favorite of all time. Like I said at the beginning, trifecta. It's just so rich and decadent. A nose dessert beer without having those dessert adjuncts added. Let's dive in. Cheers, y'all. It's just so good. Oh, man. The explosion of flavor. That's what you're getting here. And that's kind of like the dice game. That's when you're rolling those dice on aged vintage beers, what you're really rolling a dice on is flavor. Because, a lot of these older beers, they can be oxidized. And oxidation gets a bad rap. That can actually work in favor. There's some oxidation here, but in a positive way. But if it's a little too aggressive, it's got a little too much negative oxygen, wasn't cared for, whatever, you don't necessarily get a bad beer. You just get, you can have a beer go sideways with infection, but it's more so like less mouthfeel, flatter flavor, less carbonation, goes a long way to delivering that flavor. This has none of that going on. It's full-bodied, fuller than what Samichlaus is originally comes off as a higher ABV kind of Doppelbock / barley wine kind of vibe. It's about the same level of mouthfeel, but there's just a little bit of birth to it, a little bit of softness to it that you don't get with the original one. Then you cut to just the flavor standpoint of the beer. Again, you're getting all those things that I kind of got on the nose, but it's kind of like mark for mark, beat for beat, what Samichlaus typically gives you, which is what I call the Americanized version of plum wine, like Japanese plum wine. It always rings in my brain. I've had so much plum wine in my life. It's one of my favorite kind of alcohols outside of beer. And there's some kind of Venn diagram where both of these, this beer and plum wine, kind of skew together in that Venn diagram. And it to me, I could see somebody else calling out a rich red fruit on this. I could see somebody else calling out even something completely like not plummy, but in that kind of adjacent thing. But that's the best way I can describe it. That has this nice rich kind of plumminess to it. But it's still beer through and through because you're getting all those flavors from a beer. It's not like they added plum to this or added anything. This is a core 4 beer. We brewed this beer, we put it in a bottle, it aged. And ages into this, and when it does age into this, when the cap is sealed well and everything goes right, it just has this impact, this volume, which is much, I don't want to say much bigger than its younger self. just more refined version of its younger self. That plumminess is richer. That sugar daddy portion of the show, which is definitely here, maybe a little bit tempered based off what you get off the nose, but definitely there, is much, much bigger. Again, that mouthfeel and everything about this beer is just super cohesive, which is, what age beer is really all about. And then explosive. Like, you get a level of explosiveness with the fresh Samichlaus, but it's much, much sharper. Everything here has that shaved edge I like to talk about when it comes to aged beer. And it's probably one of the best examples of an aged Samichlaus that I've ever had. Like, it just it shows that softness that has grown with age, that richness that has grown with age, and just that adultiness that has grown with age. A lot of times when I talk about adulty beer, I talk about score bars and how that's an adulty dessert, and you can go 9 different ways with adult kind of desserts. And I'm not saying this beer isn't sweet, but it's sweet without sweet being the main portion of the show here. It's not like this is sweet, this is good. That's candy. That's candy for kids. I like sugar. I eat cotton candy. I love cotton candy. I have a 4.5-year-old. I understand that. Then there's this, like, okay, this is sweet, but why is it sweet? What is it giving me beyond just sweet? It is that rich plumminess married with, like, an awesome datey figness. I'm actually blown away. I haven't mentioned dates yet, because I literally went to a restaurant. I did a tapas kind of tower thing, and one of the things I had there, which was absolutely fantastic, was a bacon wrapped date with blue cheese. And I walked from a place eating dates, bought this, and now I'm reviewing it the next day. There's that datiness to it, but it just marries so well with those other fruity components in there, that figginess, the datiness, and that plum wininess. And then you just have this kind of sultry mouthfeel, silkiness, but at the same time, a density that makes you know it's full. I love this beer so much. It's one of my favorite beers, classic all-time favorites. And then when you walk into a random place that you've never heard of before, and you see about a rack of 2016 Samichlaus for, I want to say it was like $3.99 for a bottle or something, like insane. You just kind of feel like it's like serendipity. It's meant to be at that point. And good God, man, such a treat. And this is the reason why I love aged beer. This is the reason. I've had my duds, man. I've had more duds than wins over the past few years. There's been some really great ones. Some of the brewery stuff that I've found on shelves. Some of the other beers that I've randomly found. But there's some that really missed a mark. But this one has been kept really, really well. And then, thinking about this beer, going back and skimming through my old review and thinking about that beer that my boy Flash Gordon sent off, and how I really enjoyed it. But I could tell there was time still left on that beer. It needed some more time. It was, 3 and change years old at that point. And I was just like, man, it just needs a little bit more time. That Samichlaus is a long haul ager. Just need a little bit more time. This is the time I was talking about. Like, just taking all those flavors and not just making them a little bit more volumetric, making it absolutely more cohesive and making a richer, fuller. I use the word berth, wide berth on a beer, and to me that's like, the beer isn't just sharp peaks. It encompasses your whole mouth, and the flavors just wash over you, as opposed to being sharp flavors like this, and this. It's more like a tsunami. I don't think I've ever used the word tsunami in a beer review, so kudos to me for cracking that one. And getting just absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. What I would consider barley wine, but they call Doppelbock beer. Vintage beer is the best. One of the best beers. One of my favorite beers of all time. And honestly, if I'm going to talk about just aged beer in general, let's cut to that chase. I think I've described the beer enough. It's a lot of me yammering, so I get that annoying part of me. But just that rich, date figgy plumminess, that nice kind of soft kind of mouthfeel. There's almost like a little bit of it's sweet, but there's the bittering on this beer comes from like almost like a yeasty kind of like a tempering of the sweetness, which I think is unique to Samichlaus. This is one of the better Doppelbocks I've had. I would say yes, Mount Rushmore Sass, but I never considered as Doppelbock. One of the better barley wines I've had is, yes, one of the better age beers I've had as late, which is what I was trying to cut to. Absolutely 100% Mount Rushmore status. This is core 4 age beer at its best. Hell yeah. Samichlaus. For the win. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Value and availability. You can find Samichlaus. I urge you to purchase this. I urge you to age this. I'm really curious about how some of the cans long haul age, because they started putting this in cans, but you can still find. Like I said, I walked in a random place and I found a 10-year-old Samichlaus. This can be had, at least in my area, the tri-state area. You can find these things. Value, like I said, these are usually, or I said in my previous 2016 review, these are typically like a $5 to $6 bottle as a single, if not more. I got it for $4 off the shelf and leave you with, if you like what we like this, if you like aged beer, or plum wine and aged beer. It's just an experience. Sure, if all you deal with is hazies or lagers or jam, I'm not hating on those things. I love those things. But if you like aged beer, if you like aged barley wine, if you get a tip-top, well-done, aged Samichlaus, it's not going to get much better. Honestly, I don't think so, at least. At least not for this guy. So there you go. We're reviewing the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Massive Beers, if you want to check me out through the social media stuff, Beer Massive for the podcasting stuff. And Samichlaus, what's your experience with it? Or even Schloss, Eggenberg. Have you been to the brewery? Have you had their beers? Their Erbach 23. Their Schwarzes from the Samichlaus line. They do a bunch of different beers. Have you had their beers? Have you had this beer? Have you had Samichlaus age? What's your experience with that? Have you had the 2016 fresh, relatively aged, or 10 years old? All that fun stuff down below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our review. Hopefully you enjoyed a little Samichlaus right now. Hope we'll see you next time. Cheers.